Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people. I think art and creativity, I think the things they make life bearable. You can be down. You can be worried about the state of the world. You can see a beautiful movie. You can hear a wonderful song. You can go to a play. It'll lift you up. It'll make you feel connected to each other. It'll give you hope to keep going. And that is certainly the case with the movie I'm talking about today. The film is The Compatriots, and I'm talking to the writer-director Spencer Cohen. It's a story about friendship and two friends, one gay, one straight, growing up in Massachusetts. And one of them, we come to learn, is a dreamer. He's undocumented, and he faces possible deportation. There's ICE agents running around. It's very of the moment, which is kind of eerie considering they had to shoot it a couple years ago. So it's very of the moment. I was touched by the friendship. I really just enjoyed the movie. So before we get to the interview, though, I want to remind you that this podcast is pretty much brought to you by me. I have some sponsors sometimes that played before, but mostly it's me. And if you like it and want to support it, there are a few things you can do. You can go to DennisAnyone.net and leave a tip in my virtual tip jar. There's also a thing called Buy Me a Coffee, which is always really fun. The other thing you could do is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of shows under the Derek and Romaine podcast banner, and for a monthly fee, you get my show early, and you get all these other fun queer shows. So you can learn about that at dnrstudios.com. I also have a Patreon and a Substack spin-off show called Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. And for $5 a month, you get an episode every week. I talk about things that I talk about on this podcast, like pop culture-y things, things that I go and see and do. But mostly at the end, I like to talk about happiness. I'm interested in the science of it. I'm not an authority on it by any means, but I find it fascinating, and I love to share things that I learn or little tips. Or I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm really interested in the topic, and I like to talk about it and share things that I've learned, things that have helped me in my life. And so that's part of that show. So learn about that at Patreon or Substack and just search Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. All right, enough of the plugs. Let's get to the interview with Spencer Cohen. Joining me now from Boston, Massachusetts, it's Spencer Cohen. He's the writer-director of The Compatriots. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
I really enjoyed your movie. I liked the cast. I liked that it wasn't about what I thought it was going to be about. It starts off feeling kind of like rom-com-y, and then some stuff happens and you're like, oh, it's that movie. And it could not be more timely, in a way that's unfortunate, horrible, actually. So, before we really get into it, describe for the listeners how you would describe the movie to someone that knows nothing about it.
Yeah, so the film is about a young undocumented man, Javi, and his quest to kind of be who he is, who he thinks he is, trying to live his true identity, but unfortunately can't because of the situation that he's in. He was brought to this country at a young age and doesn't have any protected status here. And he enlists the help of his best friend, Hunter, to help him, be himself. And, it's a funny, serious, we can talk about how those things blend, piece about dreamers and immigration. And yeah, like you said, it's about as timely as it possibly could have been.
Did you have any idea it would be as timely as it was? I mean, how could you know? But what's it feel like to have a movie that is speaking about what we see on the news in such a vivid way, knowing you made it, a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. And, we started ideating this film 10 years ago.
Right.
So this was a very, insular topic where I was like, okay, it's based off my relationship with my best friend, Alberto, who I met in middle school. And, we started talking about this issue. I didn't know about his status until senior year. And I said, how do we talk about this? How do we tell this story? And we kept saying to each other, like, let's hope we don't have to make it. Let's hope it, I could write the script for 6 years and all that work. I have to throw it in the trash. But maybe I learned something about screenwriting.
Yeah, because we got our laws together.
better. And unfortunately, that's not the case. And things have taken a turn for the worse for a lot of these people. And, I'm grateful that the film exists so that we can start telling more of these kinds of stories.
Yeah, it's important to have stories out there, because what happens is we really care for Javi, and he makes some decisions throughout the movie, and you don't understand why he's not grabbing that opportunity or why he's not taking that job, or what. There's things like that, and then you learn he's undocumented, and you realize, oh, he's had to do this dance his whole life. And,
yes.
And you, with your friend, not finding out till you were a senior in high school. So there were 4 years or so in there where you didn't know his status. Were there things that came up like, well, why don't you go on that opportunity? Or why did you have to pass on that? Were you curious about certain things?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, why aren't you coming out to this party? Like, why aren't you hanging out with us? Why aren't you coming out late at night? Why aren't you, you just got a car, you got your learner's permit. Why can't you drive us from the high school to the senior lot, which was like, 1,000 yards? Because when you have a learner's permit, you can't have other people in the car. And, all the rest of us who, had citizenship or, permanent status in this country, would, those minor infractions, those small little things, we didn't even think about, right? It was not something we even thought about.
Yeah.
So it was those things that I saw when he finally told me that clicked, and I was like, oh, I see why you've had to be so safe, your whole life, and still to this day he does have the temporary protected status through DACA, but there's all sorts of things he has to do to that I don't have to do, right? And yeah, I think I wanted to make sure that if people didn't know somebody like Javi, they could, like my friend Alberto or like Javi, they can look to Javi as their friend and say, oh, this is what they have to go through on a daily basis. They have to turn down these opportunities, all these sorts of things, even though they've been here for decades. Right.
In a way, it's almost like being in the closet again. It's very much that same kind of behavior of like secrecy, subterfuge, constantly being paranoid that somebody's going to find out your secret. It's a lot.
Yeah, totally. There's all sorts of parallels there. And I think that's where, Javi's sexuality comes from as well. It's like that he is not allowed to be himself in so many different ways. And in so many ways, he has to stay in hiding, and he's sick of it.
Yeah. Javi is Peruvian in the movie. Is Alberto as well?
Yep, Alberto's Peruvian.
How did you find out ultimately? Did he just tell you one day?
Yeah, I think he just told me one day. I can't remember the exact day. Honestly, he probably can remember. He has a much better memory than I do.
I've noticed in the film's publicity and stuff that he's around at screenings and stuff, which is awesome. It's been really
he's
cool.
been able to come to screenings and talk about his experiences and talk about his film, talk about the film, and it's been great. I mean, he was the best man at my wedding. Like he's my best friend. So right. I am grateful for him for sure.
I saw a picture on the website of you guys in suits together toasting, and I was like, did they get married? Like, what's going on? So he was the best man at your wedding. Right on.
Yeah, he was the best. We did not get married. He was the best man at my wedding. And you probably saw the photo from high school, and the other one from when he graduated from college, which was awesome because he wasn't able to get for a long time in-state tuition because of the way the rules around Dreamers were set up. So even though he's, been paying taxes and he's been a, working member of society for a long time, he wasn't even able to claim anything like in-state tuition, and DACA allowed him to do that. So he was able to go part-time to Framingham State while, he was working to afford it, which is what you see there. And actually we shot all those scenes, the college scenes at Framingham State University, which was a really fun, touch point.
Yeah. Art imitating life. One thing that the movie doesn't quite get right is the scariness of the ICE people, because they're not wearing masks. There are ICE people. They don't seem that nice, but they're not the monsters that we see sort of today, right? Like it's way more scary and kind of like sci-fi Armageddon movie in real life than what you depict in the movie. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, it was interesting because, we shot that 2 years ago, and we got some comments like after first screening, like especially when they first show up in the bar, in the tavern. Oh, why are they in plain clothes? Shouldn't they be in, their raid outfits? And I was like, no, sometimes they're in plain clothes. And the one thing I didn't know was that they were going to wear masks, and the way they were going to go about things.
Right.
I could not predicted that, because that was a change up from what they used to do or what they did before. So that was one of the things where it's like, there was no way for me to
right. No, if you'd made them like they really are back then, people would have been like, this is over the top. What is this, Rambo? Yes. What's happening? Did you do any more research apart from talking to Alberto about how it all works? Did you research different laws or find other people's stories to filter in?
Oh yeah. So Alberto was my main guy for about like 8 years, until we started saying, hey, we're going to make this movie. And I said, okay, let's get more people involved. So we brought on 2 other dreamers as screenplay consultants before we went into production, got their notes, got their feelings on how things went down or would go down. And then I made sure in our crew and cast hiring process that we wanted people on this set who had been through these experiences before. As someone who is not from that community and who has not experienced a lot of these things personally, I wanted to make sure that we were making an authentic movie for the people who who are depicted in these communities. And I wanted the film to be for them. I didn't want it to be an outsider look. Yeah. And so, like our props masters from Venezuela, she's been through the green card immigration process before. Our cinematographer, his wife, is an immigrant. They went through the green card immigration process, and I could go down the list of all these people who have been in these rooms before, have lived these lives, and I probably wouldn't stop annoying them on details. What would this look like? What would this feel like? What would be hanging on the wall in Javi's house? What would they? I mean, I knew they'd be, he'd be watching soccer, but, right. I wanted to make sure that all that stuff felt very, very lived in, and almost had and we experimented this with the cinematography too, almost a documentary feel, You're watching, a real life story. I'm grateful with how that's come across, because we've had great responses from audiences who have lived in these communities, who really identify themselves in the film.
I'm trying to think if I've seen another movie or TV show about a dreamer. I mean, we've obviously heard about them in our political discourse, but I think In the Heights, there was a hint of one in the musical, I was part of the story, yes. But it really wasn't the focus of it. I think it's going to do great things for showing people what it's like to be those people and be stuck in the middle. What was it like when you started screening it at festivals and stuff? Would people come up and talk to you, dreamers and people connected to those people?
Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of immigration stories people have shared with me throughout the festival process. I've personally been to 10 of the film festivals that we got into. And at every screening, I'll have, 6 to 10 people waiting to tell me their story and to tell me how, they came here, or their parents came here, or a funny anecdote, or, hey, you nailed that part of the interview process. That's a question they would ask, or they would get, they might not specifically ask what your sleep number is, but they ask very specific, very questions like that I don't know what my wife's toothbrush color is. And that is a true story that is basically that scene there is basically a word for word scene that I had with my wife, where we're at this Airbnb with friends, and I was looking at this toothbrush and I was like, that's not mine. Right. And she was adamant that it was. And I was like, oh, that. And then one of my producers at the time, her mother, who went through this process, said they asked what her partner's toothbrush color was. And I was like, what? That's insane. Like, I don't know. I obviously don't even know my own toothbrush color. So how could I know what my partner's is? But, you know, those are the kind of things that they can do. And so we had a lot of people come up and talk to us about all the processes that they had to go through in order to, you know, come to this country. Yeah.
I love stories about friendships, and the friendship between Hunter and Javi is really sweet in this movie. And Hunter is kind of a straight kind of ladies' man, handsome, athletic, and all this stuff. But you really do feel like his life, that Javi's friendship is the best part of his life. And you really understand why he goes to the lengths he goes to, because he doesn't really have anything else meaningful happening. I just thought that was a really interesting aspect of the story, and it was beautifully played by both of your actors. Talk about the character of Hunter and what you wanted to look at with him.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted, you know, especially you see it kind of early on in that intercut between what Hunter is going through and what Javi is going through after this, you know, fallout in high school.
Yeah, there's a party at the beginning where shit goes sideways.
And then they have this falling out where they don't speak with each other for a few years, and then they finally reconnect. And you see them in this interim time where they are not, you know, they're passing right by each other, but they're not seeing each other, and they're not chatting with each other, and kind of how, you know, empty he feels like his life is without his, you know, best friend. And I think there's something truly beautiful about friendship and how close you can be, you know, with your best friend. And I think that's something I really wanted to show the audience is like, you know, and I've had people, you know, this might not be a romantic in the sense of like in the sheets relationship,
right?
But this is a true bromance of two people who really do love each other. And, you know, why can't they be married, right? Yeah. So many heterosexual couples have dead bedrooms type of thing. So I really wanted to kind of show the dichotomy between two characters who didn't grow up that far apart from each other. You know, I think the town that we grew up in is kind of the town I wanted to depict, this commuter line town that has a, you know, train into the city, and has this very different, has two very different types of, or not types of people, but two very different kind of classes in terms of economic status, people, and how, even though you grew apart and played baseball and played video games, how different you can be from each other, and how, you know, why should one person get to live in, you know, live here comfortably and the other can't? Yeah. And the other thing is I really wanted to show, and this is something I got in some review, like tons of reviews I did so much reviews of the script early on. I got a lot of eyes on it. Yeah. And something I heard a few times was that I rebelled against. It was like a note I kept getting, but I was like, that note is bad. And I'm going to rebel against that, because they kept saying that Javi needed to be special. Javi, and you see this
right. He had to be the best baseball player or something. Yeah,
extraordinary. They wanted him to like cure cancer, you know, or like be an astronaut, or like they wanted to be someone that Americans root for to stay in the country.
We want him on our team.
Hunter's not that way. We don't need to be special. You know, it's only a matter of who he is as a person.
Yeah,
you know,
humanity makes him special.
Yeah, exactly. So we really wanted to depict that.
That's interesting that they would give you that note. Like, but I could see why. Like, and I think I like that you resisted that very much. I think the character of Hunter is a great model for modern masculinity, because I think a lot of straight guys are struggling with like being able to express that they love their friends, or, you know what I mean? Like, and I just like, I thought that, and it was beautifully depicted by the two actors, and I just appreciated that part of the story. How hard was this movie to get made? Was it a long process? Yeah. How did it come together?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously I wanted to make sure the script was bulletproof before we even started talking about this, for a lot of the reasons we talked about. Also, I'm an editor by trade. That's kind of how I got started in the industry. So I was editing the script like I was editing the film. And because of that long process, which was great, like no scenes got cut out of the film. Every scene needed to be there to make the other scene happen. So I couldn't cut anything out. But to answer your question, yeah, it was a long process. I think I've been saying that I've spent a third of my life on this movie, which is true. We started talking about this 10 years ago, and I was 30 at the time. I'm 32 now. And yeah, I spent a long time on this film, and, it came together. We did it I keep saying off the grid, but it's really like outside of the Hollywood industry. Right. But because of that, I was able to make the exact movie I wanted to make. Every single decision, every single, my voice is wholly in this film. And whoever I wanted to bring in, not for any other purposes besides who I thought would help me tell the best story possible. So, that presented challenges, obviously, not being connected to the industry, not having, any sort of names attached or whatever. But I think that regardless of that, they are all the right actors to play all these roles. And I'm just so grateful for all of them for being a part of it. And us being able to get this film off the ground was truly a big lift.
What did you learn making it? About yourself, about making movies?
It is so many things. I learned thousands of things. I can't even tell you. I mean, honestly, right before I got on these press phone calls, I was still dealing with some accounting stuff that we had to work on. So I've learned how to be an accountant over the 2 years, but mainly I learned. I don't know if this is a cheesy answer. I've learned a lot of things.
We love cheesy answers. I love cheesy answers on the show. Lean in.
I learned this is what I should be doing with my life. I was so grateful for those 20 days on set with 50 people all pointing towards a singular vision that I had been dreaming of for years, and being able to delegate the proper tasks to people and make split-second decisions on set. I always tell people, it made me feel like an athlete again. It made me feel like I was playing a sport. You have to make a split second. You're going to pass it to this guy. You're going to pass it to that guy. You're going to throw the fastball. You're going to throw a curve. Are you going to choose the red shirt? Or are you going to choose the green shirt for Javi?
Yeah.
All these things are very... you got to make really quick decisions when you're shooting 105 pages in 20 days. And so, I learned that I reinforced my love of filmmaking. And I'm really grateful for those 20 days. Then the editing, I was like, okay, next time I'm going to hire another editor, because I was just by myself in my basement for, 8 months or something like that.
Working on it. Wow.
Yeah.
I directed some short films. I haven't made a feature yet. I would love to someday. But, all those decisions, I found that when they came at me, I knew. It wasn't like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. Like, I know. Like, I think, so that's why I'm kind of drawn to the idea of doing it again. Like, I have a vision. It's not like, oh, God, I don't know. No, I know. I know what I want it to be.
Yeah, and we've all been on sets with directors who don't know.
Yeah.
And how tenuous that situation can be, and how that can break down so quickly with yelling and people, being upset and crew members walking off. And we had a great set. We had amazing crew members, and I think, I was able to set them up for success because I told them exactly what I wanted to see and how I wanted to see it. And they could understand that because I was able to speak their language. I have done sound before. I have shot films before. I have done lighting before. And I was able to speak everyone's language.
Were you shooting in your hometown where you grew up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that like? Were you like, I bet they gave you locations way cheaper than we would have gotten like in LA or... Yeah.
Oh yeah. We definitely, and the other thing too is I wrote to those locations. So I knew where I wanted to shoot. There were some things that didn't quite work out because still you have to deal with like towns and municipalities. But like I said, we shot at Framingham State University, where Alberto did go, which was awesome. We shot all of Tracy's house is my parents' house, which I'm in currently because my real house has my baby and my nanny in it. And so it was a little too loud to do the interview. So,
right. So you're in the house from the movie.
Yes, I'm in Tracy's house from the movie. Right?
That feels really cool for some reason.
Yeah, it was a cool little...
Yeah, it's a nice house.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, no, it is. And
with
it
a pool? It's the one with the pool,
of...
right?
Yep, the pool's in the backyard.
Nice.
Yeah, no, so we knew we had a great location there. I convinced my wife to let us shoot in our real house for hunters. We couldn't find a bachelor pad type of thing. Yeah. So I turned my living room into a bachelor pad with the help of our production designer. We made some flats. We put them up. We brought a couch in there. Big upheaval in our house for a few weeks there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we shot all throughout our hometown, which was really special. And we're actually doing a hometown screening on Sunday at this art house theater that's in the center of Natick. So it should be cool to show it to the community that we shot it in.
That will be really cool. Have you, in your film festival travels and stuff, have you met anybody that was sort of like, I don't know, on the other side of the immigration issue, where they thought that Javi needed to be deported? Or have you met any resistance around that? Because there are people that are very charged around this issue.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm guessing the people who attend film festivals are...
It's a different crowd, not a lot of overlap.
Yeah, are a slightly different crowd. So I have not experienced pushback. I've definitely had people tell me they didn't understand what Dreamers went through, which was kind of our point. But I do think the way we kind of treat the antagonist, Ryan, which was a decision I made later on in the screenwriting journey.
He's one of their fellow students that kind of causes some trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, he was originally going to be a typical kind of like high school movie jock bully that you would see in any sort of like high school coming of age film.
A James Spader character from the 80s. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So he was that way for a long time until I realized that's not really what's going on here. What's going on here are people who feel like they've been cast aside.
Right.
And they don't look for the true reason or look inside. They look outward, and they don't usually look up. They look to their neighbors to see who could possibly be making their life worse.
Right.
And that's a cancer in our society. And yeah, it's a real thing that's existed, and we've, seen that in our real life. And I hope those people can see this film and understand that these are not the people who, you should be going after. These are not the reason you're in the situation you are in.
Right. It had to do with him feeling left behind by the other friend, being jealous. Yeah. I have one more question for you, but first let's remind people how they can see your movie, The Compatriots.
Yeah, so The Compatriots is going to be out on VOD on September 16th. We're going to be on Amazon, Apple, all your other digital platforms in the US and Canada. And then at some point, it will be also out in some specific international countries as well. I
love that. All right. Well, people should watch it. It was not what I thought it would be, and I really enjoyed it. I was very moved by it, and it really opened my eyes to a few things. So here's my final question. It's 30 years from now. What's a moment from making this movie, this journey, that you're always going to remember?
Oh, good question.
Something from the shoot, something from a screening, something you're like, oh, that's always going to stick. I'm always going to remember that.
This might be emotional, but
we love emotional stuff. And yes. What was the thing you said before? Corny? No, it wasn't corny.
Yeah.
Anyway, go for it.
Yeah. So my wife and I had been trying for our first child during the little bit of the before the Compatriots, and when we started shooting, I knew that she was 12 weeks pregnant. And unfortunately, the morning of the scene with in the bar where Javi and Hunter reconnect, that was a night shoot. In the morning, we had our 12-week appointment, and unfortunately, we lost that baby.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thanks. And I had to go to set and direct a comedy because that's what we had to do. We had to get the film made. And she came with me to set that day, and she is in the film. She is Rebecca, who Ryan is chatting with before he goes and talks with Hunter, and then the camera pans back and it's an empty bar stool. That's my wife, and she was there that day to support me. And I'm not gonna forget that. I think that was a really tough moment, but also a really beautiful moment that I think is captured on film and will live forever.
Right. That's really moving. Thank you for sharing that. And there's also something about creating is something you're creating something in the film. Like, it's not the same, but there is a similar feeling of like creation, I guess. Like, bringing something into the world. Yeah.
And now I have two babies in the world. I have a 1-year-old, gratefully, and I have this film which is due, on September 16th.
I love it.
I'm excited to see it birthed into the world.
There you go. All right. Thank you for your time and for doing the interview. Congratulations on the movie. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again to Spencer Cohen. Check out his movie, The Compatriots. All right. So this happened last night. I went to the movie theater, with my friends Danny and Matt, and we saw Hamilton on the big screen. It was, they've done the 10th anniversary big screen version of Hamilton, and I had seen the Disney Plus version when it came out. I remember it was during the pandemic. I also remember the same night Trump was doing that crazy event at Mount Rushmore. I don't know. I remember that vividly, that it was such a split screen moment. Hamilton on the big screen. I had seen it on stage in Los Angeles at the Pantages, and to me it feels like a perfect musical. It just feels like it emerged perfectly formed. Like, everyone involved was at the top of their game and brought their most genius stuff to the party, and it just all comes together in such a powerful way. So anyway, we saw it last night on the big screen. Some takeaways. Lin-Manuel Miranda is feeling that role and that experience so deeply. He was crying a lot throughout the performance. Like, it was just you couldn't help but feel like the emotions were not just him playing the character, but also just like the magnitude of what they had achieved together and what he had brought out of his creative brain, and that was really moving. And the women in the story moved me so much. Eliza and Angelica and Elijah. Angelica is Renee Elise Goldsberry, and who is that? Who plays Eliza? Why can't I think of her name? Philippa Sue. Anyway, there we go. Though when their scenes are happening from the beginning on, I just cry every time. And I love what a feminist statement it ends up making at the end. I just sobbed through that whole thing, and I'm just like violently shaking. And also there was just something about watching that production of that show in Trump's America 2.0, knowing that he would have contempt for everyone on that stage. Because of their race, because of their sexual orientation, because of their politics. Like, if he could, he would line them up and get rid of them. Like, that feels like where we are. And so that this story about America, about the founding fathers, watching it now, I mean, it's you just want to, it's heartbreaking. But you've got to keep going, because if this show can exist, if these ideas can exist, then we can overcome this moment, this horrible moment. But yeah, I'm really glad I saw it. I think it's in theaters for a little while longer. It was really worth having that experience. So there you go, Hamilton on the big screen. All right, I'm going to let it go for this week. I want to give a shout out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye.
Fall is all about cozy comforts, but when you're prioritizing your health, it's easy to feel like you're missing out. With Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your fall favorites because they're made with Hero Bread sliced bread loaves, tortillas, bagels, dinner rolls, and more. Try their all-new Hero Noodles with 12 grams of protein and just 80 calories. So skip replacing every carb with cauliflower and indulge in your breakfast, lunch, and dinner time favorites while still hitting your goals. From breakfast bagels and meal prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. They've even got small batch drops of indulgent favorites like the popular Hero Croissant. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's fall25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.